and welcome to Into the Light. I'm your host, Adina Movana. Today we have Serena Curan. Serena is a soul liaison, spiritual business mentor, healer, teacher, and Akashic Record Channel. She nurtures and guides change makers, visionaries, and spiritual entrepreneurs to break through their upper limit and expand into their next level. With over 25 years of global experience, Serena has had the privilege of leading and inspiring hundreds of women to safely take courageous leaps while unlocking more impact and income than they ever dreamed possible. I love that, Serena. Welcome to the show. It's so good to have you today.
Thank you, Edwina. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm really excited to talk to you about all this work you do with being a soul liaison. I actually haven't really heard that term before, so I definitely want to go into a little bit more about what it is you do for our soul purpose and journey and all of that. And I just love that you're also working with women and entrepreneurs and helping people increase their income and just have more impact in the world with our spiritually led businesses. Because I know that's what I've been up to lately. So that's what we're all excited about doing here.
Exactly. We know, and those are really linked. That impact and income are really linked. As you have more impact, you have more income, and then you can grow your impact. So they're very much linked together.
Right. And we're always in this process of kind of like working with people and creating more impact and just finding where we can flourish and blossom into who we are and where we're most aligned, and then get really that then we're in alignment and things are coming our way, like law of manifestation, right? Or all of that work that you do, right? Yeah, so I'm so excited. I know we were talking a little bit earlier before the show, and you have a couple different programs and things that you do with working with women and the clients that you work with to have an impact. But tell me a little bit of more about like what got you into this work. And I know you're doing all kinds of mentorship and you're a healer. You actually have a background with astrology and also like quantum human design. So it sounds like you're really specialized in a lot of different areas, right?
Well, I've been doing this for over 25 years. So, and I'm one of those people that's always investigating. If it's out there, I've tried it, I've read about it, or I know about it. And some
Yeah.
things like the Akashic Records I've delved into, and in my private mentoring, I use some information from astrology and quantum human design to help people to develop their businesses around who they are. But the
Right.
primary thing I do is actually read their soul in the Akashic Record, read their soul blueprint, and that gives them and I give them detailed information on what their soul gifts are and how they can use them in business. And this
Right.
certainly is part of having impact and income, is this ability to really align with your soul. And then I guide them through aligning with those gifts more fully in a number of ways, through clearing the records and also investigating their 7 keys to manifesting, which are different for every person.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the Akashic Records because I'm sure you get a lot of people who don't even know what that is, or maybe they're
Yes,
just hearing
exactly.
about it. Yeah, yeah. And especially in the business world, because there's a little bit of a divide there between what happens in the spiritual community. And I heard a little bit, I started hearing about Akashic Records, I don't know, a little bit, a couple years ago, maybe. And I found it fascinating. It sounds to me like that's where all of our soul data is contained in this amazing thing. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is? Like, how do you describe what the Akashic Records are for someone who's just coming to you or they don't even know what that is?
Yeah, well, basically it's a record of everything that's ever happened, but it does contain your soul blueprint. And so in that, and it contains everything that ever happened to your soul as its travel, because souls they're immortal, they don't go away, they travel
Right.
to
Yeah,
place.
right.
And
All our
and
life
so
incarnations. Yeah.
yeah, so they've gotten different kinds of experiences, and some of these experiences decisions were made that were not in alignment with the highest good, and those can create interferences. So you have this beautiful soul which has these lovely gifts in it, and then you have over it maybe a cloud of this that keep
Mhm.
it from being fully expressed. And of course, why are we here? We have this body with a soul in it that's here to be expressed. And so
Right, right.
I really guide people into being able to express their soul. And of course, when you align with your soul, you're in flow. You go into
Right.
all the abundance.
That flow state, that's what we hear about. And I think you also talked about how you have what was it, the seven keys to manifesting. And so I imagine that once we're getting into that flow state, we're working on our manifestation and co-creating everything. What are exactly are the seven keys that people need to unlock in order to do that?
Well, it's really, it's a bit of a complicated system where I look at these 7 keys and rate people on where they are on the scale of the 7 keys. And
Mm,
so it gives them information about the kinds of clients they might want to work with. Let's take one example. Like I look and see whether their soul wants to be consistent or variable. And if
mm.
they're consistent, then they want to, when they're creating their business, they want to say, create a workshop and keep doing it over and over again until it finally is successful.
Right.
Whereas a person who's invariable would do a workshop, go to networking events, create a challenge, and do all kinds of different things to develop their
Oh, right.
business. So,
Yeah.
and so
That
there's
makes
yeah, so that's just one of the keys. And what happens is when I evaluate those keys and I tell people what they are, I give them a written report explaining their keys to them. I also look to see if they're in alignment with their keys in their business and their money and in their relationships. And
mm,
then we talk about how can you bring yourself into alignment? How can you use these? But they also, as I said, tell you, just like I said, with consistency and variably, how you can develop your business most easily. And
right,
so
because that makes sense because one thing works for one person, they want to keep doing it, and the same thing that's what, but then other people they'll get bored with that. They don't want to operate that way. They want to operate like an entirely different way and do different things every day to mix it
and
up
some
to
people don't know that, by the way.
yeah.
They aren't aware of that fact that, and it's a relief for many people when I tell them I've always wondered why I struggle with trying to do 5 different things, or
Right.
why has it always been hard for me to just do the same thing over and over again?
Mm.
They've still been trying to do it because maybe someone told them along the way that they should, but it's not working for them and they don't really understand what's going on. And so that's where the clarity comes in, and being able to make decisions that are so aligned with your soul that everything flows more easily.
Right. And that's that's really where you're like working in your most efficient like modality or your what do they there's a lot of different words for it where you're in alignment with the things that you're doing, and that's how you activate the law of attraction. So I really love that it sounds like very personalized, like you each person is obviously very different. Do you kind of work with people one on one and give them a real personalized kind of like way to do this, or how do you usually work with your clients like in this process?
Well, in this process, have a program called the Soul Wealth Treasure Map, which is
Oh,
actually Akashic Records readings for business. And so
mm,
it's a 4 session program. And so I do the first part where I talk about their soul gifts and other things about their soul, how they best what their organizing principle is, and all of these things that come with their soul, and how to use them in business. And then there, I look at the interferences that are keeping them from using those gifts, and I remove
oh,
those. I've had clients double their income overnight, or get their biggest client overnight, or get their biggest booking overnight, because the synchronicities start happening when you get in alignment with your soul. I also then evaluate where they are in alignment. If they're out of alignment somewhere, we do talk about how to bring themselves more into alignment so they get guidance in that way. And then I look at the 7 keys and we do the same thing, which is I look at their alignment and give them feedback on where they're misaligned, and we work towards bringing them into alignment so that they can be in the flow. And so
yeah.
it's powerful. And then of course, when I'm working in the mentoring program, we do that sort of thing. And as well, we develop the business around who they are and go much deeper. And that's when I get into the quantum human design and the astrology pieces.
Right. Wow. Yeah. And so you incorporate obviously like human design. Is there any, and quantum, you also do quantum energy healing as well to help clear some of these blockages that people have. Is that
Yes,
right?
I do clearings on the level of the Akashic Records. And here's the most important thing to know about that, or one of the important
Yeah.
things about it, which is that when you can do a lot of healing on the mental, emotional level, and it doesn't really filter up to the level of the Akashic Records. But when you work on the level of the Akashic Records and do a clearing here, it filters down through the mental and emotional bodies. And so it's much more effective and efficient than you
Mm.
could spend eons on some of these things trying to correct them, because they're patterns and whatever kinds of interferences are in there that are in your soul energies.
Programs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like really, really programmed in deep, right, into our
Yeah.
subconscious.
So it's effortless. You don't really have to do anything except receive the reading. I do the work.
Wow. Yeah.
And
So like what happens when someone has something like when maybe they have some imposter syndrome, or that's a pattern that maybe has come up in their career and none of us like to admit it, even if we're super successful. I feel like for me, I've definitely still had a lot of imposter syndrome come up even when I wasn't aware of it, and I can tell that it's maybe something in my subconscious. So are you able to help really create those breakthroughs for people almost immediately versus having to, I don't know, talk through it for years in therapy or whatever coaching you might need?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. For example, I had a client who told me that because she knew what was in her soul record, she felt this. And I just had a client tell me this the other day too, that it felt so confident in who they were and so clear about who they were. And I think this other client didn't use those words, but he said that he felt like he knew these things about himself. He knew some of these things about himself, but now it was really confirmed as being part of his soul. So I call this soul confidence. So you have this level of confidence, it's at the soul level. So that how does an imposter syndrome happen when this is who you are at the soul level? And that's what you're here to express.
Right, right. And is that what you mean by like a soul liaison? Is like what?
Yeah.
Where did you get that term? Like, did you create it, or how do you feel like being a soul liaison is really your calling?
Well, I created it. I created that because I had to think about what is it I'm doing, because I also teach group programs, and in those group programs, I'm teaching people how to connect with their own soul and what are the skills that they need to evolve themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm a soul liaison because I help them connect with their soul. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what a liaison does. So I help people connect with their soul on different levels with the Akashic Records and with learning how to tune in themselves to their own soul, because the environment we're living in, which is so chaotic and changing all the time, we really need to be able to have that inner authority and that inner knowing about what's right for us and not listen to what everybody else is telling us, because there's so much misinformation out there and it's going to get worse.
Definitely. Yeah, we have to stay on track with our sole purpose. It's like you get easily just derailed in this world with like overstimulation and so much going on. To like time is speeding up, things are going faster, right? It's pretty nuts. Are you seeing like an increase in people like business owners and people who are opening up more and more to doing this work, like in this awakening process? And you do see a lot more people kind of gravitating towards doing things this way and versus what kind of the old way of doing things in their
Well,
business?
I work with change makers and spiritual entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
these are the people that are seekers and want to expand and want to evolve to the next level. And so they're very open to being able to receive a leap in where they are in their evolution and to learn to connect with their own soul so they can self-evolve and
Mm.
continue to, because we're here always to be evolving and growing more. And
Yes.
yeah. And so, yes, it's very powerful, and certainly people are open to it. If I went into a corporation, a regular corporate environment, there would be some people that would be interested, but most people would probably be a little skeptical, I would think.
I know. Oh, everyone. Yeah. I just like I come from a corporate background, and I actually had like a over a decade in like corporate software enterprise sales and different all kinds of different companies I worked for up until about a year ago. I was starting to deviate into my new direction. So I totally understand that. And that's when I also became more and more interested in a lot of these kind of more esoteric topics on spirituality and what we're really here to do. And that's where started becoming more and more in alignment with my own sole purpose. So I can totally understand that. When you say that you help people like kind of communicate or connect with their soul or their higher, like are you actually facilitating them learning how to do that, and as they move forward in the future and they have like more, I don't know, clear like guidance or intuitive abilities? How exactly are they getting more like in tune with what maybe their higher self is actually trying to tell them or communicate with?
Well, I teach a methodology that they can use at any time,
Mm,
but where that really begins, and this is such a critical and important part of buddies' ability to develop their business, is to create safety for themselves.
mm,
And this is around, there's so many people with walking around with trauma. And when they have trauma, they make bad decisions because they've got filters that lead them in the wrong direction. So creating safety is part of it. Learning to process your own emotions, rewriting the stories that you're telling yourself, tuning into your intuition, connecting to your own Akashic records. These are all tools that are used, that once you have this ability, these tools, then you can go, these practices, then you can go forward and keep on evolving yourself. We're always evolving ourselves, but if you have a methodology that really supports you in doing that, and for some of the people that I'm working with, they've got a lot of certificates and a lot of modalities that they do and all kinds of things that they have to offer, but they've hit an upper limit. They can't go any further. And what it really is that they really need to make that deeper connection with their soul and learn those processes to help them keep on clearing and moving forward to an upper level.
Totally.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, I feel like a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs have they're already feeling like they are kind of in touch with that already. Or do you feel like you have a lot of people that you work with where, like you said, you're kind of taking them to the next level? Where are people usually at when they kind of first are working with you, or they start to want to do your methodology and get more involved in this? Like where do they start from, and then where are they when you're usually finished with working with them?
Oh, yeah. So I can give you examples of clients. I've had one client who came to me who was making about $80,000 a year, and she had tried to grow her business twice and spent a lot of money trying to do it and was very discouraged, was ready to give it up. Mm-hmm. And when we looked at her records, there was just a small tweak that she needed in her 7 keys. It was out of her 7 keys, a small tweak that she needed there. And when she did that, she immediately the next day got on a stage and with 500 of her ideal clients, and within 3 years, she has a multi-million-dollar business. Now, so she made a lot of decisions and actions and things going forward. But what happened was that little seed in the beginning just moved her business onto a different trajectory. And so those possibilities opened for her. And then she got to follow that trail. So that's one example. Sometimes people come to me and everything's functioning well. I have had corporate clients as well. And I think one of the corporate clients told me that afterwards, a contract that had been in the hopper for a year came through. It was like a $36 million contract, and it came through because once you get in that flow, the synchronicities start happening. So there's no one answer to what happens. Yeah. It's different for every person, but they're always going to take a leap in who they are or where they're at in their business and where they are in their life.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned you went in and you were kind of what are you looking at when you're taking in these Akashic records, or how does that work when you're actually, I mean, I know there's no real tangible filing system here, but what are you actually reading and what are you looking for when you're looking at these records?
I'm reading energy. But I read the Akashic records differently than a lot of people do. A lot of people go in and asking questions and just seeing what's possible, what comes up. But I ask specific questions so that I get specific information back so that I can tell you, yes, I'm going to tell you what your soul gifts are. Yes, I'm going to tell you what your soul origination is. I'm going to give you certain information, and I'm going to give you that in writing so that and that's why I call it a map, because now you have this roadmap that when you're going to make a decision, you can go back and go, well, let me look at this and see how it lines up with everything I know now about my soul. And so, yes, I think that's all I want to say.
Yeah. What does the map kind of look like? I'm curious. We all talk about mapping and, getting things, next best steps or things like that. But it sounds like this is more than just it's like a kind of, it doesn't matter maybe what the decision is. I'm trying to decide between this thing, this ad or that thing or whatever, where to invest money in a business. How do you then go back into looking at the map and then know exactly from that what to do? What does the map really consist of?
Well, it consists of a description of your soul powers, that there's what you came here to express and how you can use them in business, what the pitfalls are, what the negative expression of it is, so that you have clues that if you're expressing this way, you're in the wrong space. And as far as making a decision, a specific decision, should I do this or that, you really have to go into your intuition on that.
Right.
your body. And part of that is that creating the safety so that you can connect with your body and can actually get the information that you need, depending on who you are and human design again, because there's a different way that are.
Yeah.
So it's never like there's not like a cut and dried answer to like, this is how it is. It's really that understanding of who I am and that sense of following the trail. So for me, your purpose is to express your soul. There's never anything that says you have to do it in any such way. You don't have to do this or that or the other thing. You can do whatever you want as long as you're expressing your soul gifts. And to me, when people say, I'm searching for my purpose, I'm like, do you think your soul came here to search like a needle in a haystack for your purpose? No, it came here to be expressed. And so that's the power when you're knowing exactly what those gifts are that you're here to express and how you can do it. And so it does affect your business model and your business decisions. So there is guidance there about whether this decision or that decision might be right for you. Yes, there can be guidance there in the map as far as those things go. It just depends what the question is.
Right. That's amazing. I know people are getting like more and more into human design, just basic human, like what kind of, I've done those little, you go online, you find out what your manifestor generator, your prototype is. And it sounds like you really take it a step further. So you have people who do Akashic Records, and you have people who do human design, and people who do quantum energy healing, and you're kind of doing all of that together.
Well, let me just be clear. I'm a Akashic Record Channel, so that's my primary go-to energy.
Right.
I use quantum human design as for some information. I don't delve deep into it. I find it way too complex, and I also think that it gets to be very restrictive, that people start thinking they can only do certain things and certain things. But there are some things that are very valuable in there as far as what your purpose is and how you would generate money. There's some valuable information in there. Mm-hmm. Same with astrology. Your astrology, your sun, your moon, your rising signs give you information about your business. So I don't delve into transits and all of that sort of thing, but we do work on that level of understanding. You can look and see who your ideal clients are based on your astrology. So that's what I use it for. I use it to support the business in whatever way it needs support, but it's not those are not primary things for me.
Right.
Human design is based on your birth time and date, and so is astrology. The Akashic Records are not based on any birth date or anything else. This is your soul as it was formed at its origination, and
even before whatever incarnation we're in at this
time,
right?
So it's not incarnation dependent, except the 7 soul keys are a little more incarnation dependent, but basically it's not. The gifts are not just
limited to like where you were born, time and place, and constricted to that. I like that, because I have heard limitations with human design, and I know there's like the gene keys is another kind of layer of that, and there's a lot of that. But being an Akashic Records channel is interesting to me. So when you're channeling, like what kind of, like, does the person you're working with have to, you said you ask them certain questions or you learn things, like you don't have to answer any, like, do you go hypnosis or anything like that? It's just basic.
They don't have to answer any questions other than they tell me their name at their birth, their date of birth, and their place of birth. It's not because it's astrological. I use that as when I go in and I connect in the Akashic Records and I get to their soul, I just have that there. Is this the right soul? That's all that's for. And so it's nothing to do with astrology or anything else. And I ask the questions in the Akashic Records and I tell them the answers. So they don't have to do anything except receive a lot. And when I clear the Akashic Records, of course, I cannot go in anyone's Akashic Records without their permission. I cannot clear their records without their permission. So on both occasions, it's up to them whether they're open, they're going to allow those changes to take.
Right. And when you say clear it, I mean, you mentioned earlier, we're all walking around, we have traumas, we have this, we have that. Is that what you're clearing out, is trauma related afflictions or things that, I mean, I know there's limiting things that we need to break through, but are you also like helping people just heal trauma basically through the Akashic Records, and is that something that is really like people are moving beyond certain, like, I know we had childhood trauma or things that happened in our life here, and obviously in our, past lives and all this stuff. It's like it's all piling up in there, and I feel like I need, is it just like gone all of a sudden, or how does that like really clear out that kind of trauma?
Well, first of all, the trauma is on a mental emotional level. So we're working on the soul level,
Okay.
and there can be patterns in there that have contributed to the trauma. There's
Right.
things in there. There are people who have traumatic experiences who have influences from guides that are holding them back. So it's very hard to answer these kind of general questions because
Yeah.
everything is specific to the soul.
Person.
So when I do the group programs and we talk about creating safety and all of those things and how to process emotions and stories, that's when people are releasing traumas. And then we go in the Akashic Records and make the changes. So
Right.
yes, it's related, but it's not related to the soul wealth map directly. Although when you remove a pattern that happened in a past life or happened even in this lifetime, it can release those energies. So
Yeah, totally.
I never can say. It's like any kind of energetic work. I cannot say to you exactly what is going to happen to you, but I
Yeah.
can tell you it'll be really good, and it'll be a big leap forward, and it'll be fabulous. I can tell you that.
Right. I love that. I love that because we all want to make these big leaps and step into our, best and highest self life. And a lot of people are doing that work right now. And yeah, so I feel like as you're clearing this out and people are having release and emotional things, like how long does it usually take? Like how long do you usually work with people overall or your clients? Like is it
Well,
and I think that they continue to work with you even probably long term, right?
I don't do a long term usually. I
No,
don't
long term.
not usually.
Okay.
I work 3 months or 6 months with a client in the
Mm,
program, but
okay.
basically, the soul wealth treasure map takes 4 sessions, which is around a month to
Mm.
6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks
Oh, that's good.
during that process. When you have the clearing of your records, it's immediate. The results are immediate. It's not. It may be you'll notice some things are different right away, and because it's put you on a new trajectory as you go forward, you're going in a different direction. And as far
Mm-hmm.
as people, and you will take a leap, there is no question about it. But people tend to want to think that they can leap all the way to the biggest thing. And that's not how it works. We're on a spiral, we're going around. And so as we go up the spiral, we get to work with something here. And maybe back up here, we're going to work with it again.
Hmm.
But we're not going to go from here to here because what would be the purpose of being here? You could just, okay, I'm going to go. I'm arrived. I'm going to leap all the way to the top. Going to be enlightened. I'm getting off of here.
Right. It's like the whole process is really the experience. That's the growing
Yeah.
and yeah, I get that.
And so the value here is that this can give you a big leap without having to do a lot of that mental emotional healing. But what it looks like exactly depends on the person and the soul.
Right. And you mentioned the synchronicities kicking in and that being important. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. How does these synchronicities, like I know we have everyone's like talking about 1111, 333. We all have the numbers, numerology, synchronicity. What kind of synchronicities really start happening when you do this work?
Well, for me, synchronicities are much more than just seeing 333 or 11 stuff. Yeah, are unexpected experiences that you have that are leading if you're aligned with your soul and you've set up an environment where people tend to think synchronicities just happen, but the reality is you can create an environment that calls in synchronicities or generates synchronicities, and aligning with your soul is a big piece of that. And of
Mhm.
course, a lot of clients have had synchronicities, like as I mentioned earlier, like getting their biggest, all of a sudden the next day,
Big planets, yeah.
in the blue, someone calls them up and it's their biggest client ever. And they're like, I don't even know how they got my name. Like this other client who made a phone call and got invited on a stage with 500 people. She
Yeah.
phone call. Those are
Those
kind
are the synchronicities we want. Yeah.
and then I have personal synchronicity stories of personal synchronicities. Many stories of personal synchronicities have happened that you go, wow, I could never
Oh
ring.
my gosh.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like circumstantial synchronicities are way more important, like what than numbers we see. But yeah, actual like finding your soulmate clients is one thing that I've talked about, and I like to. We definitely get in alignment, and then being able to attract that person that comes out of nowhere. It's so amazing that you can create the environment, like you said, to kind of for that to happen. And yeah, that's just amazing. And I know you've been doing this a long time, like over 25 years. And I'm curious how you kind of got into this work in the first place. I know we talked a little bit, a lot of people I know they start out human design and these different areas, but how did you originally, yeah, how did you get into it?
Well, first of all, I have a master's in chemistry and I did medical research and worked for biotech
Wow.
industry. And then I had an MBA, got an MBA and was a marketing manager for companies. And then I worked in art, selling art. But basically it was all synchronicities, basically synchronicities. So one day my sister, who I invited to come visit me, was standing in my kitchen and she said, "You can go while I am here." And I said, "Go where? I'm not going anywhere." My third chakra was going. And so as it evolved, she said, "Well, where would you go if you could go anywhere?" And out of my mouth comes Europe. And I'd never, ever said I'd wanted to go to Europe ever.
Wow.
So one synchronicity led to another. And I wound up leaving within 10 days. My sister stayed to take care of my house, my 3 children, and all of the other things that were involved in my life. And I went off on this trip, not knowing where I was going, the way that my brother called me and said, "I hear you're going European." I said, "I wouldn't know where to go." And he said, "What have you always wanted to collect?" And I said, "Fairy godmothers." He said, "That's easy. Go to Scotland." So I bought a ticket for Scotland and I wound up circle dancing in Findhorn on summer solstice. I did not arrange that. That's how it.
That was the date. Yeah.
And then I began traveling and I wound up traveling intuitively throughout Europe for 3 months, backpacking. And at the end of that time, I knew I was going to go live in Europe. And I did not know. And if you had told me that at the beginning, I would have told you were like crazy. No, I'm not doing that. So I'm back
You've never
home.
been there. Yeah.
I had my children move out. I sold all my goods. I sold my house. I did all these things and I did not know which country I was going to live in. In the meantime, in that interim between the time I started that process of turning my life upside down, I dreamed I was a healer. Dreamed I was doing something. And somebody said, "Well, you are a healer." And I said, "I'm not a healer." She said, "Well, can you do this?" And I could do all these things that I didn't know about. So that's how it began. And then what happened was I was guided to take 3 weekends of training. So I had 3 weekends of training. One of them was with Barbara Brennan, who said to me, "You are a natural healer. It's your life's purpose." I went back to Europe 9 months after this. It was September. It was autumn equinox when I returned to Boston. Again, not arranged by me. I was waiting in Geneva to get a ticket. And I went back to Europe and I didn't know what country I was going to live in. I couldn't find out what language I needed to learn, nothing. And I traveled along the Swiss, German, Austrian border and I crossed into Austria and I knew that's where I was going to be. And I had to discover what I was supposed to do there. So I just discovered as I went along that I was meant to do these healing circles. And ultimately I got invited to the largest healing center in Vienna that had all these international healers. And I had done nothing really. And here I am standing up there saying, "Amerikanisches Heilerin." And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's us." And I did a healing circle there for 30 people who had, like I said, been with all these big names. And at the end of it, they said, "We love your energy. We'd like to offer you a place here to work if you'd like to." And I have my
amazing. In Austria, huh? That's amazing. Like who knew everything's go Austria had this whole that's awesome. I love that story because you totally just followed whatever intuitive and guidance was being sent to you, right? And then you allowed those synchronicities to give you the best possible experience, right?
Right. And it's about following your soul, which is what I'm teaching people to do when I'm doing programs about learning to trust and follow your soul. And when you follow synchronicities, you're doing that, but you need to be in the flow, first of all, and be saying yes. Now, if I had said no to that first thing about going off on this trip that I'd never planned doing, and I was just starting a business and all these other things, my whole life would have been different. That was a choice point that put my life on a completely different trajectory.
Right. I'm curious about that. Just I know that I hear about like jumping timelines or shifting time, like the actual shifts that we can create where maybe a different version of ourselves would have done something differently or made different choices. And then another version makes different choices. So how does that work where we can really, and how do we conceptualize that idea of time, like timeline shifts or shifting into different versions of or higher versions of ourselves?
think that that's a kind of a little game people play, and they like
Yeah.
to say we shift timelines and we do all these things. What
Yeah.
it means is basically if you take a leap in who you're being, like you do when you get a reading in the Akashic Records, you have
Mhm.
now put your life on a different trajectory. There's all these possibilities out in front of you always. And
Right.
so it's about the choices you make in this here now moment, decide which one of those possibilities you're going to go on. And so it
Wow.
isn't like any people make it into some kind of mysterious thing. It's really about evolving yourself. And as you evolve yourself, you become a different version of yourself. Now, you can call that shifting timelines if you want to, or saying you're in
Mhm.
well reality, but it just really means that, yeah, out of those possibilities, you've made a choice that put you there. And that's the
Mhm.
fall. And you can, and then there'll be more choices and more choice points. So I don't feel it necessary and I've studied quantum science, by the way, all the mathematics.
Really? That's intense. I don't even know how how does it work? Time and space and
It's
it's
basically all
all
math.
mathematical.
Yeah, it's all mathematical.
I'm like, stay away from that. I'm like, I can't even.
Well, I was a chemist, so I did those things. But at any rate,
Amazing.
yeah. So at any rate, I don't think we have to get too complicated about it. It's about
Yeah.
evolving yourself into a different, and we can say that's a different version of yourself. And so, yeah, like if I can get my Akashic records read and cleared and I can be a different version of myself after that, I'm
Yeah.
in,
Right.
I'm
Right.
in for that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I love that you have like that science background, the mathematics and the complexity of all this. And this isn't just some woo-woo thing people do, but it's actually grounded in real, like tangible science, right? Even though it's
Well,
esoteric.
yeah, I don't know if I'd go so far to say it's grounded.
In some in quantum science, right? I guess is a
Yeah,
different
I
thing.
would say people have taken ideas, and there's certainly, and synchronicities is one of those ideas because
Mhm.
we talk about entanglements in quantum
Yeah.
science, which is that things are connected to each other that don't seem to be connected to each other. And that's what
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
synchronicities are. They're things that happen that you're like, I couldn't, that was not A, B, C, D, E, F. That was something out of the ordinary. Like I can give a simple example. When I was living in Sedona, I've lived all over the place, by the way. When I was living in
Wow. Yeah.
Sedona, there was this other healer, a male healer there that I needed to have a conversation with, and he kept avoiding it. And one day
Mm.
I went to the next town to a store that I never go to, and I
Mhm.
took the corner in the store and ran smack into him. And he was also now up in next town as well. This wasn't where he lived. So that
Okay.
was a synchronicity.
Random.
That was
Yeah.
definitely because we had to have that conversation and he was avoiding it. So we got to have the
Mm.
conversation. But
Right.
I couldn't arrange that.
Yeah, it's like that happens to me a lot too. And sometimes I think like, oh, yeah, that like you just have to let go of control of trying to create. If it's meant to be, you're gonna have that interaction. But I feel like, yeah, things definitely happen to me, or someone will call me at a certain moment and it happened just at the right time because something was gonna happen right after that. And if they didn't call me, wouldn't have done that. So I definitely feel those synchronicities are definitely true and happening a lot in our lives. So it's great to be able to, yeah, kind of create, like you said earlier, cultivate and create the circumstances where, yeah, that's happening more and more, and it's going to work in
Right.
our best benefit for our best and highest self. So yeah, that's awesome. And you also mentioned you're teaching people this work. Are you teaching people how to do this? I know you have your clients and your teacher and mentor and all that. What are you really focused on teaching, and are you passing your methods to other people so that they can do this work too?
Well, I'm not sure I can teach someone to do this exactly the way that I do it. I
Fun, yeah.
am helping people. I am helping people. I in my programs, to connect with the Akashic records themselves and to.
But then they can do, because that's why you said you only work with them like 3 to 6 months, and then they're kind of able to do a lot of this
That's my
work for themselves.
mentoring program. I have
Mm.
another group program. It's different than the mentoring program, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
right now on the soul wealth treasure map and the Akashic record readings for people because it makes such a big it makes such a big difference in people's lives. So I'm focused on that right now. But I do have
Mm.
a little gift that I've made called Living in the Flow. Five
Okay.
5 tools for generating synchronicities and prosperity. Because as there is an environment you can create that will allow for more synchronicities. And of course, the foundation is always being aligned with your soul. But there
Yeah.
are
So
other things that you can do. And then the synchronicities, you get in the flow and the synchronicities come. Because when you're aligned, there's an energetic, a creative source that comes down through the center of your being. And when you're inside of that, you're manifesting. That's where synchronicities, you're manifesting with ease, and that's where synchronicities are. Now you manifest out here outside of it, but it's a lot harder than when you're aligned with your soul.
Right. That's the flow state again. And so you have you said five tools.
5 tools for generating synchronicities and prosperity. And
Awesome.
I'll give you the link for that. And people
yeah, people who can listening in can find that, and then we'll link it below. Where else?
I can tell you the link. Let me tell you the link.
Yeah, where can people find you in general? Also, like your social media or I know you have a website. I was on it earlier, so you got a lot going on. Where's the best place for people to find you?
Well, let me give the link for the 5 tools, because there might be some people that are listening here and not.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a bit.ly link. It's a bit.ly, and you put the HTTPS in front of it. /tools-SYN, and it's all lowercase. So it's TOOLS-SYN, and that
SYN. What's synchronicity? Yeah, SYN. I like it. We can remember it's the start of synchronicity. Okay, SYN. And then what about your regular website, or where do you like? I don't know if you have a social media following. Where do people like to go to find you if they want to tune in and learn more?
Yeah, you can go to my website at serenacuran.com/services if you want to see the services that I'm offering. And then I'm on LinkedIn more than anything. You can find me. I think it's just Serena Curan, LinkedIn /
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. That's amazing, Serena. And wow, we covered a lot. And any kind of final thoughts or words of wisdom you like to share with people who might be listening, or they're kind of maybe thinking about doing more of this work, but not really sure what to do or where to go. What do you have to say to anyone you'd like to?
Well, I'm happy to talk with anybody. And I do have also a bit.ly link, which is a bit.ly/wealthy soul. And you can book a call with me, complimentary call. But what I want to say is that each one of us, each of you is a one-of-a-kind cosmic being. And you came here with gifts that the world needs. So it's very important for you to get in touch with your gifts and to express them here, because we all need your gifts.
I love that. Yes, we're all like unique. We're all here at a certain time in this like time and place, right? This is I don't know. I talk a lot about the spiritual awakening process and how this is such a pivotal time for humanity's growth and enlightenment period. And we're all here experiencing Earth at this time as we are in the ascension process. And that stuff is so fascinating to me, because I feel like you said, especially right now, a lot of people are feeling the crunch of everything that's going on. We have a lot of really a lot of purging energy going, and people are struggling, but this is the work that really allows us to transcend and break through a lot of those obstacles and barriers. So it's just so important, and it's happening right now. It's like a mandatory process, right? that we're going through.
What I have to say about that is we're in the middle of the chaos. And as a healer, you always know before you can heal something, all of the garbage needs to come to the surface. So garbage phase.
Oh my God, we're in it's purging garbage phase. I like that. All right, Serena. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. What a great time we had. And I feel honored to talk to you, because you do so much work in this area, and over 25 years of doing this stuff. You're amazing, and you've helped so many women, so many people, men and women, so many people get through these breakthroughs, and entrepreneurs and business owners. And I really like how you connected the Akashic Records to like business owners, and you made it very clear how something like that can really help your business in a tangible way and really deliver financial prosperity to the people you work with. So that's just awesome. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, amazing, Serena. All right. Well, until next time, we're going to have all of those links below the episode, and you can find Serena, go to her website, book a call, get those 5 tools for your synchronicities, for your toolkit. And definitely like and follow, maybe even add you on LinkedIn. You can also find me on my Instagram. It's at Adina Movana, or my website, www.adinamovana.com. So thank you so much for listening today. It was a great episode. And thank you so much, Serena. I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. Lovely.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.